message that's coming from different quarters of our International Society for Krishna Consciousness. Some of you up here in Minneapolis know everything that's going on in the world of ISKCON, but some of you need a little sharing of things that are going on in the bigger world of ISKCON. So that's what I was doing that Friday evening. In summary, there's a growing interest and sets of activities following that interest, concern, to help fulfill some of the unfulfilled wishes of our founder Acharya. I mentioned one of them was a constitution. Without details, there's 8 years of work done on a constitution that needs to be scrapped and started over again. But reinvigorated efforts to do. That was something that Prabhupada said in the 1970s that he wanted, and still isn't done. And some other things, but we spent some fair amount of time discussing Varnashram, something that Prabhupada said he wanted, and where is it? How do we do it? What will it look like? And so forth. So, one of the topics that for 40 minutes and then a 20-minute discussion was Shiva Maharaj from our GBC in Hungary, who was giving leadership to New Vraja Dham, an outstanding community, Aquarian-based community, that, as far as I understand it, in Eastern Europe, or in all of Europe. Hungary, in particular, has historical contribution to the rest of Eastern Europe. The rest of Europe is like the breadbasket of Europe. So, not that other parts of Europe don't have agriculture, but it's particularly known for agriculture. And so they have a community that in Hungary, they received hundreds of thousands of US dollars worth of government money to do what they're doing, the infrastructure for what they're doing, because they're so organized and they're so competent and so education-oriented to teach people in Hungary and all over Europe that come there in busloads and busloads to see what they're doing, to show sustainable agriculture. And along with that economy of agriculture, they now are, the past 4 or 5 years, very seriously exploring what's the social structure to support a Vaishnava community. And so obviously it's Varnashram. So they are very actively, not casually, but very actively involved in trying to understand the intention of our founder Acharya in the realm of Varnashram. They discuss it. It's like it's right in the very foreground. In Budapest, it's book distribution and Harinam, and at the farm, which is not far from Budapest, it's sustainable agriculture, different economy, different focus of activity, but certainly lots and lots of preaching. In any case, Shiva Maharaj made a presentation for 40 minutes on kind of a little executive summary of what he's been doing in that area. Not only he, but, and it's not just at the farm, it's at the various, the urban centers and the preaching centers and the farm, and establishing Varnashram. So one of the pieces of that presentation was what we discussed on Friday, so it's going to be Saturday, which is a series of verses, Canto 7, Chapter 11, verses 8 through 12, where Narada Muni is responding to a question asked by Maharaj Yudhisthira, because the previous 5-6 chapters in 7th canto were Narada Muni just telling the whole story of Lord Nrsimhadev and Prahlad Maharaj and Hiranyakashipu and everything. So, hearing about the qualities of Prahlad Maharaj, Yudhisthira asks, how does one become so qualified like Prahlad Maharaj? I'm to become the king, or I am the king, and it's the duty of the king to direct and lead the citizens towards the goal of life. And look at Prahlad, he's a perfected being. So please describe, O Narada, how the society can be organized in such a way it can reach that stage of Prahlad Maharaj. Very good question, natural question. And so the next 5-6 chapters is an answer to that question, starting with these little summary messages at the beginning of chapter 11. So at the beginning of chapter 11, texts 8 through 12, Narada gives, I'm saying this in very simple language, it's not exactly the language of the verses, but before you can get to that stage of consciousness, there must be following of the Vedic system of organizing society, which is the Varnashram system. And to do that, you first have to become a human being. So you can follow organized structures so that you can then become perfect. So this is the presentation of Shiva Maharaj was. The first 21 of 30 are traits of a human being. And then the 9 that follow the 21, making 30, it's the limbs of bhakti, the 9 limbs of bhakti. That's also discussed earlier in Canto 7, the 9 limbs of bhakti. Prahlad Maharaj says to Hiranyakashipu, Shravanam, Kirtanam, Vishnu Smaranam, etc. So the same terms aren't there when Narada said, but it's the same 9. So he suggested, Shiva Maharaj suggested that as leaders of our society, we have to fulfill the instructions of our founder Acharya, and you have to begin somewhere. So one place to begin is, which we in Hungary have decided to do, so I'm inviting you all, you also can consider it in your places where you serve. Encourage the devotees to discuss these 21 qualities of a human being. For example, we plan to take one of them for a month and just have classes focusing on one of them. And then in the Sunday lecture, when the guests come, just get absorbed in being a human being. And what are the characteristics and symptoms, and as part of their intended goal of following the Bhagavatam and establishing Varnashram in Hungary, so the devotees know what it looks like, how to do it. That thing that hasn't been so clear for so many decades. Then on Saturday evening we took one of those qualities and discussed it a bit, and that's tolerance. So what does it mean? What does it look like? What are the symptoms? In one of the writings of Ramanujacharya that I very much appreciated amongst many of his writings was his explanation of a method of developing qualities. Krishna has some nice description of that in 11th Canto Bhagavatam. This description that Ramanujacharya gives is, if there's a particular quality that you wish to become a quality that you live by, or improve whatever it is, the quality that you have, so it becomes better, he suggested finding great personalities within the world, within the scripture, or within your personal life that you particularly appreciate that has such a quality. And you hear about them, you speak about them, you remember them, you pray to them, and as you're thinking of them, you're particularly thinking of this particular quality, and in course of time, by that method, you associate with them, and that quality becomes your quality. Sangat sanjayate kama, in the language of Bhagavad Gita. By the sangha, you develop qualities. And if you can associate with someone with an outstanding quality, then you're associating with that person, the quality becomes your quality. Maybe not to the degree of that person, but more than you have today. It becomes the quality that's part of your character tomorrow. So we did some of that on Saturday. I didn't give that explanation of Ramanujacharya, but I was conscious that that's what we're doing. And scripture is like that. Bhagavatam is filled with that. Just like Prahlad Maharaj and his exalted qualities. So now it is drilling down on how does one become like that. So Narada is giving this explanation, so we're following Narada and following Srimad Bhagavatam to become, hopefully, better humans, better capable of following the Varnashram system, so that we can come to the lotus feet of Vishnu, so that we can become fixed in pure devotion. Go back to Godhead. Be with Krishna eternally. So in Shikshastakam, we're going to touch on Shikshastakam again this evening, appropriately. But in Shikshastakam, it's one of the recommendations that Lord Chaitanya Mahaprabhu gives for becoming better at chanting. And chanting is a way of directly associating with Krishna. But one of the qualifications to better directly associate with Krishna in the form of his holy name is become tolerant, become human. So this evening we're going to focus on that quality of tolerance, and specifically as found in trees. So there's a very wonderful and a very natural connection between trees and being saintly. Now, it's not common that people think of trees and saints in the same category. But there's a wonderful passage from the 10th Canto Bhagavatam, Krishna's pastimes, where he does. So it's found in chapter 22, and it's a little hard to see. Yeah, pull the curtain. Draw it. Can you do that same over on that side?
It
Doesn't go. The curtain doesn't move?
Probably doesn't work out.
Oh, too bad. Ah. Now there's an engineer. Can we do the same over there? Like a pin or a clip or bubble gum or something?
Maharaj, one second. Maharaj, Krishna. So whose van is 543EAY?
Oh, mine.
Oh, it's yours? Okay, and Surendra Prabhu, give me one minute. So they are parked very near to the main road.
Oh.
I would put it somewhere else.
Why don't you do that one? You're really good. Try the other one. Oh, it's so much better. This wasn't designed for a room that's well lit. It could easily have made the background darker. Okay. When the sun's heat became intense, Lord Krishna saw that the trees were acting as umbrellas by shading him, and thus he spoke as follows to his boyfriends. So this is chapter 22. It's summertime in Vrindavan, and those of you that have been in Vrindavan, someone's smiling over there. Many times families go to India during the summer because it's vacation, kids are off of school. But you go to Vrindavan in the summer, and I've had kids say, Maharaj, it's like an oven. It's not hot, it's like an oven. And you go to sleep at night, you can't go to sleep at night because you have a big puddle of perspiration, and you wake up at night and you're perspiring, and then it gets hotter during the day. Maharaj, it's really hot. So, apparently it was hot during Krishna summer, although there's a place in the Bhagavatam that says the seasons were so mild that even the summer season was like spring. But in any case, the sun's heat became intense, and Krishna was appreciating the trees and the service that they render. So he then said, "Oh, Stoka Krishna and Angshu, oh Sridham, Subal and Arjuna," different Arjuna than Pandava Arjuna. "Oh Vishala, Vrishab and Ojas, Devaprastha and Varutapa, just see these greatly fortunate trees whose lives are completely dedicated to the benefit of others, even while tolerating the wind, rain, heat." I don't think there's any snow in Vrindavan. Maybe they sent some from Minneapolis. Vrindavan. They protect us from these elements. There's Krishna with his arm around the shoulder of Balaram. Usually it's the other way around. But he's pointing and gesturing to the trees. Just see how tolerant they are, yet at the same time completely dedicated to the benefit of others. So, Vrindavan, Vrindavana, the Vana means forest. The whole of Vrindavan is like that, just filled with trees and forests and different types of trees in different parts of Vrindavan. And Krishna would go there to enjoy with the cows. Just see how these trees are maintaining every living entity. Their birth is successful. Their behavior is just like that of great personalities. For anyone who asks anything from a tree, never goes away disappointed. And this is the nature of a saintly person. And spending less of time with Ramayana these days because I'm preparing to go to Ayodhya for a yatra. And there's multiple places where sages, when approached by somebody for something, the sages are sure. And there's this very long description of how Vishwamitra Muni became Vishwamitra Muni, his lineage and all the austerities he went through. Even when he was so intensely determined to reach this stage of a great rishi, when approached, he would immediately take care of whatever it was that somebody was asking, and difficulty, and then all of his penance that had been accumulated was gone. He had to start over again, and he did it again, and did it again. It's mentioned. These are characteristics of a saintly person, so saints and trees have this in common. They tolerate and they simply serve others, so that no one goes away disappointed. These trees fulfill one's desires with their leaves, flowers, and fruits, their shade, roots, bark, and wood, and also with their fragrance, sap, ashes, pulp, and shoots. There's special appreciation for the unlimited, unqualified, whatever resource they have available, service that trees render to other living entities. And if you can recall, the gopis speak the same way about Govardhan. There's some discussion who's the best of Krishna's devotees, and of course you say Radharani. But Radharani and the gopis, they consider Govardhan as the best. For the same reason, just serving and so many different ways serving. Serving in a humble mood, without consideration of what comes back. This is a painting by a European artist, the cowherd boys under a particular bandira van, special tree where pastimes they were being performed on a regular basis. It is the duty of every living being to perform welfare activities for the benefit of others with his life, wealth, intelligence, and words. Are you familiar with this verse? I'll tell you a little Prabhupada story. Before Prabhupada had translated Krishna book, certainly before he translated portions of the 10th canto, he spoke about this verse. And I didn't know where it was coming from, but I certainly remember the lecture, because he was saying to the audience, his followers, that he wanted his temples to be like this. And he was saying that this is, according to Krishna, this is a standard of how we can measure how well we're doing in our giving of Krishna consciousness to others. So he then mentioned these 4 outcomes. One is, some persons may choose, by your giving Krishna consciousness to them, they just give their life. And that's very wonderful. And many of my Western boys and girls, they've simply given their life. That time there weren't so many Indian families participating in Krishna consciousness. Certainly when he went to India that came to be, but this is a class he gave in the West. And some persons may not be prepared to give their life, but everybody has some occupation, some activity, and from that activity they give, there's some wealth, something, the fruits of their activity. So when persons give some of the fruits of their activity, or directly their activity in rendering service to Krishna, that's also very nice. And some persons, they may not be able to directly be engaged in some service at our temples, but they have the capacity to assist us in our mission. And so they can give their intelligence and study the message of Bhagavad Gita. Krishna says, one who studies the sacred conversation is worshipping me with their intelligence. So that's also very nice. And then the last part, he seemed very instructive. He was saying their words. So when we meet people and we're engaging with people to give them Krishna consciousness, they may not give their life. They may not give their wealth or their intelligence, but at least they should give their words and say, the Hare Krishna people are nice. And if we interact with them in such a way, they walk away and say, the Hare Krishna people are bad. That's not good. Minimally. So there was, for example, there was a period of time when our book distribution didn't take this one into consideration. It was get the book to the people, however you do it, doesn't matter. And it was a bad reputation for our organization. We distributed lots of books that way, but now the mood is just the opposite. It's one of the mantras that Vaisheshika Prabhu and all those that are following his inspiration hold as a principle. One rule of your success on book distribution, and it's true for anything, because Prabhupada was speaking about this at least one class that I attended. At least when they depart from you, they should say, they should feel, and then they'll say, the Hare Krishna people are very nice. I mean, they're judging the Hare Krishna people based upon that one interaction. I'll have you know. It's important, so I'm going to tell a story, a little anecdotal story. One of the places that I have, for a number of years, been involved with university-wise is Penn State University. So because of Vidanagri, it's just an hour away from Vidanagri to go to Penn State. And there was a period of time when there was a really well organized person in charge of the club, and he got this bright idea, really good idea, of getting some of the other groups on campus that would be interested in kirtan and getting some funds to have a festival, and invited to the festival was Badahari Prabhu, who was awesome kirtanier. And so they co-sponsored, and therefore there were some funds from the campus, and it was a nice event, stretching over more than a few days. And then Badahari was also going to be kirtanier at some of these other clubs events, just kirtan. And one of the local people in town, not at the university, but in town, found out about it, and they said, I'd really like to participate too, and because I've heard this person's name, and I've heard his singing, and it's really wonderful, and could we participate too? So that there was some other doors that opened up from that one effort. And then some time passed, and Badahari visited, and then she came to understand this was a Hare Krishna program. And she confided in this devotee, deliberately not saying his name. Can you be honest with me and tell me, is this the Hare Krishna group? And he said, I never. The club is called Vedic Vision. But yes, I'm a member of the Hare Krishna movement. And she did one of these, oh no. And so then he knew what was coming. And sure enough, because of his nature, he asked, did you have a bad experience? Why are you holding your head like that? And she described what her bad experience was. And because of that bad experience, she just had a bad feeling about the Hare Krishna movement. And so she just distanced herself altogether. She was a coordinator of kind of all the yoga groups at State College, Pennsylvania. So she was a, shaker and mover type person that has this bad attitude from a bad experience. And then she said, but you're not like that at all. That's why I didn't think you're one of them. But when Badahari came, I could understand you're one of them. But you're not like them. You're not. I said, well, then so. And there was an opportunity to say, it's not them. It's a particular individual, and apologize for the behavior of a particular individual. That's not the behavior that is spoken of in our scriptures. For that person was taking up the practice of bhakti to become purified. So please forgive them for their impurity as they're trying to become purified. Something like what Prabhupada said. Maybe you know this. One lady was published. One lady wrote to Prabhupada. It's anecdotal, but it's the same point. Swamiji, you're doing wonderful work, this and that, the other thing. However, some of your followers don't represent you very well, and that's unfortunate, but you're doing wonderful work. Please continue. And then Prabhupada wrote, thank you, it's by the mercy of my spiritual master. This is all his kindness and the mercy of Lord Chaitanya. And as far as my members, the members of this organization that are not representing me well, please just consider that something like this. They know that they're not clean. They're in the shower trying to become clean. So don't fault them for not being clean. They're trying to become clean. And thank you very much for your kind words. So this becoming human, in part, it's not the whole package, but part of it is we're representing the organization, we're representing our founder Acharya, we're representing our disciplic succession, we're representing Krishna. The mercy of getting the opportunity to render devotional service to Krishna is a great fortune. We have to become qualified to do so. We have to cultivate these qualities, and that's what's being spoken of here. And when we're reaching out to the public, minimally, a service to Krishna is people say, oh, the Hare Krishna people are nice. No, you're not the Hare Krishna people, you're one Hare Krishna person. But please understand, from the words of our founder Acharya, people will consider the organization based upon you. I'm very conscious of that as I move about. I travel all the time, and I'm very conscious of the fact that the whole organization is going to be favorably or unfavorably regarded based upon how I could, because here I am, a devotee. They may not know I'm a Hare Krishna devotee, but they know something, because they ask. Commented, they ask, are you a Buddhist monk? I say, no, I'm a Krishna monk. I say, oh, what's a Krishna monk? Then I get to tell them about Krishna. And it's not just the words that I say, it's behavior, and character, and everything that's helping to form an impression about the whole organization. I'm very much in the public space, profile, so to speak. And each one of us, in your workplace, in school, and wherever you go, you may not, hang a big sign saying, I'm a Hare Krishna devotee, judge the organization based upon me, but they'll have an idea that you're something, and they may know even specifically you're a Hare Krishna something, and they know you're under a magnifying glass. Not just because you're different, but because, what this species, what's a monarch butterfly look like? It has these spots and these things. So, you get the idea. It's an important service as giving of one's life, giving one's wealth, giving one's intelligence, and giving your words and having others give their words of gratitude. Back to Vrindavan. Krishna loves cows, and the cows love Krishna. Krishna loves peacocks, and the peacocks love Krishna. The cowherd boys love Krishna, and Krishna loves them, and the trees. An integral part of Krishna's pastimes. What would be Krishna's pastimes without trees? And Krishna appreciates the character of the trees as well. Now, does anybody recognize this painting from Srimad Bhagavatam? It's narrated in 9th canto, King Rantidev. Just briefly, this is story time. Boys? Story time. Yeah. He was a excellent ruler, a king, and he was very magnanimous. He was known particularly for being very, very charitable. And when he did things not for himself, but for others, always. So one time, he was performing an austerity of fasting. Now, how many here is, I didn't know it was Pandava Nirjala Ekadasi. I knew it was Ekadasi. How many here are observing Nirjala Ekadasi today? Some number of you. How many of you on Janmashtami observe fasting for the whole day? Krishna Janmashtami. It's common in our organization to observe a full fast. And you know, it's not a big, difficult thing. And it's purifying. And stay absorbed in Krishna Katha and some service for the Janmashtami festival, and it's easy. But that's one day. King Rantidev observed a fast for 100 days. That's a long time. He looks pretty skinny too. For a king especially. But he was observing a fast for 100 days, if my memory is right. And on the purpose of it was to give merit from that austerity to his citizens. Something very similar to what Maharaj Ambarish did, the observing of an Ekadasi Vrata for 1 year, a very difficult one. And the purpose of it was to give merit from that austerity to the citizens. So that's what King Rantidev was doing. And when the next morning after the fast was to break the fast, they had a royal meal prepared, sat on a royal seat, and as he was prepared to break the fast, one Brahmana came and requested alms from the king. So what does the king do? He honors the Brahmana and said, "You please take this meal." The Brahmana said, "Oh, I'll only take half, you take the other half." So the king was very happy. And after the Brahmana left, he sat down to break his fast. And as he sat down to break his fast, one man came with some puppies, as you see. And the man said, "My puppies are hungry. Can you give them something?" And the king said, "Sure. Here's the other half after what's left from the Brahmana. You please give this to the puppies." 100 days. He's the king. And just immediately sacrificed for the puppies. But there was a glass of water left. It wasn't Pandava Nirjala Ekadasi. He was going to break the fast drinking water. And so as he just was about to drink the water, one beggar came and said, "Thirsty, can I have some water?" And the king then said something like what Krishna said to his friends in the forest. Said, "A person who lives by principle of virtue A person who lives by principle and virtue, it considers themselves most fortunate if they're given an opportunity to serve others. How my providence has given me this blessing that today, the day I was to break my fast, I've had the opportunity to serve so many others. The Lord is very kind. And then, as you see in the upper part of the painting here, Brahma and Lord Shiva, they understood that they heard the glories of King Rantidev and they wanted to examine him. Like everybody has a breaking point, right? So, what will he do if we do this? What will we do if we do this? So they appeared as these personalities that were examining him. And he got an A in his exam. There was no consideration for his own self. It was simply the opportunity to serve others. And then they gave him this benediction that we wish that you receive liberation. Lord Vishnu will certainly be pleased because he was a Vishnu Bhakta, and will take you to his abode in the spiritual world. And Rantidev achieved that destination. Another painting showing the same. In modern times, similarly others that are saintly, considered saintly personalities, their life is simply, can be very, very insignificant service, but service to others. On the occasion of Mother Teresa's disappearance, little sharing, our local person in Chicago is called an alderman, or the government elected fellow. And Joe Moore is our local alderman. So Joe Moore heard that we were going to have some ceremony for Mother Teresa on the occasion of her departure. So he came and told of his story of having visited her on more than one occasion. On one occasion, he was so much moved by her compassion and all kinds of service that he I've come to a conclusion that Krishna created that sound vibration for sannyasis. No editorial needed. So he wanted to get something for her, and he volunteered, I'll get something for you. And she said, I can't accept, when I see the value of something that you were describing to get, I just think of how many blankets I could provide and how many biscuits I can provide, and I can't receive anything. You can give some donation and we can get those things. Just, the nature of a saintly person is they're just simply thinking of the welfare of others. Now, this is the part that I need you 5 boys in the front to pay full, undivided attention, because this is the quiz part of our time together. And you can participate too, okay? And you can participate too. And any other, your daughter can participate too. And when we're done, and you also, when we're done, I'm going to ask, listen to the question. This is the quiz question before we get to the quiz. The quiz question, you too, sure. The quiz question is, what lessons did you learn from this story? Really simple. What lessons did you learn? Something about how you can lead your life, a lesson of life. You didn't see the story yet. And a friend of mine, I found out about this because of a godbrother, when he was raising his 2 children, they would sit and read the picture book on a regular basis. It's a story by Shel Silverstein, and then it's made into a little video. So I'm going to have to access my computer if you don't mind. No. I didn't do it. Can you just move up a bit? I have to do it manually. Just everything's okay. So it's really short. It's really short, but you have to listen very carefully because he's the narrator and it's just really simple graphics. But so, lesson. What are the lessons about life that you learned from this little story? This story is the giving tree. And it starts, once upon a time, there's a tree.
And the boy loved the tree very much. And the tree was happy. But time went by, and the boy grew older. He was often left alone. And then one day the boy came to the tree, and the tree said, "Come, boy, come climb up my trunk and swing from my branches and eat apples and play in my shade." "I'm too big to climb and play," said the boy. "I want to buy things and have fun. I want some money. Can you give me some money?" "I'm sorry," said the tree, "but I have no money. I have only leaves and apples. But take my apples, boy, and sell them in the city, and then you'll have money, and you'll be happy." And so, the boy gathered up her apples and carried them away. And the tree was happy. But the boy stayed away for a long time. tree was sad. And then one day the boy came back, and the tree shook with joy, and she said, "Come, boy, come climb up my trunk and swing from my branches and have fun." "I'm too busy to climb trees," said the boy. "I need a house to keep me warm. I want a wife and I want children, so I need a house. Can you give me a house?" "I have no house," said the tree. "The forest is my house. But when they cut off my branches and build a house, and so the boy cut off her branches and carried them away to build his house. And the tree was happy. But the boy stayed away for a long, long time. And when he came back, the tree was so happy she could hardly speak. "Come, boy," she whispered. "Come and play and have fun again." "I'm too old and sad to play," said the boy. "Life is not fun. I want a boat that will take me far away from here. Can you give me a boat?" "I have no boat," said the tree. "But you can cut down my trunk and make a boat. Then you can sail away. Be happy." And so the boy cut down the trunk, and he made a boat and sailed away, and the tree was happy. And after a long time, the boy came back again. "I'm sorry, boy," said the tree. "I have nothing left to give you. My apples are gone." "My teeth are too weak for apples now," said the boy. "My branches are gone too," said the tree. "You cannot swing on them." "I'm too old to swing on branches," said the boy. "Even my trunk is gone," said the tree. "You cannot climb." "I'm too tired to climb," said the boy. "I'm sorry," sighed the tree. "I wish that I could give you something, but I have nothing left. I'm just an old stump. I'm sorry." "I don't need very much now," said the boy. "Just a quiet place to sit and rest. I am very tired." "Well," said the tree, straightening herself up as much as she could. "Well, an old stump is good for sitting and resting. Come, boy. Come, sit down. Sit down and rest." And the boy did. And the tree was happy.
younger generation Vaishnavas and Vaishnavis? Starting with you, 5. Any one of the younger devotees here would like to raise your hand first and then share with us something that you learned from the story? Whoa, that was quick. I saw your hand first. Go ahead. Loud enough so everybody can hear. The tree gave all their stuff away. And? So what's the lesson?
The lesson is that you can give stuff away because like he didn't have like almost anything. A tree can give more than you can think of, like apples and a boat by cutting down its trunk, and building a house by using its branches, and sitting down even on a stump.
So there's always some way to be giving to others.
Yeah.
And you just be thoughtful, and there's more ways and more ways. Yeah. Okay, right behind you.
I learned that the tree was really tolerant and stuff, and it gave everything away to the boy, but it was still really happy, and it still wanted to give the boy more and more.
So there's happiness from giving.
Yeah.
Yeah. No? Oh, come on. Okay, right over here, right over here, right over here.
The tree thought of nothing else but the boy.
Yeah. So there's like a relationship that comes from giving, and you feel something in that relationship from giving, yeah? That's your message? Okay. Gentlemen, anything? Well, raise your hands so we can, it's a little orderly. Okay.
The boy was selfish, and he came to his tree for everything that he needed.
So even though he got, he still wanted more,
He was
wanted
never satisfied.
more, wanted more. He never satisfied, even when he got more. Right? That's your message.
If you go away from the tree point of view, it just showed that no matter, like, what I thought was that you don't have to be a tree. You can be anyone, and you can just give things. And the tree, and you were say if I'm talking myself, but then or the tree was happy when he gave stuff, or she gave stuff, and she enjoyed giving stuff.
So taking doesn't make you happy, but giving may make you happy. That's your message?
Yeah.
Okay. Are you ready? You got to volunteer something here? No. Now how about some of our big kids, the adults? Lessons from this story. Anyone? You got another one? She's giggling. You have something?
Yeah. So,
Yeah.
For example, tree was giving all the material things, but the person was not at all ever satisfied. Like he had more desires and coming up. So, really speaking, if we try to give charity to some person, like until unless we give the real charity for the soul, it won't be able to get us.
Very good. Very good. Look at this. We have another volunteer.
I was thinking like the tree was kind of like Krishna, so it was like giving everything it had. It's giving a lot of stuff to us, but the boy didn't really have anything to give with him. He just wanted more and more. He wasn't satisfied, and he didn't do anything to help the tree.
Okay. No service, just take from Krishna.
So like the tree gave all the things to the boy that the boy wanted. So it's like, oh, that's like the material world, how there's like so many things that you want. But then the boy was never happy at the end. So like no matter how much like things you want, you can never be happy.
Yeah. Very good. Very good. Pass this back.
I think the boy did give something because all the tree wanted was for the boy to be happy.
Anyone else? Yes.
So I thought the interesting thing was that even though the boy was unhappy and dissatisfied and kept wanting more, ultimately the boy actually, in the end, showing the boy sitting on the stump and actually finding that love, that relationship that he had with the tree is what ultimately actually satisfied him. So it was interesting that he tried everything else, to look for everything else to satisfy him, but he also came to that point of that love.
One more is that like, the ability for a tree to give something is that it's grounded on the earth.
Yeah.
And it's being supplied by the, like it's nourished by the earth. Until unless like one is grounded in Krishna, if you can't give something if you don't have something.
Yes. Your Krishna conscious answers are very nice. These are ones that.
I was going to say
one more?
I was just thinking that it's also, at least, in real life, it seems like if one wants to cultivate a tree-like mentality, it seems like one also has to be satisfied and not have an expectation to get. Because the tree was able to keep giving because the tree was with no regret, because it did have an expectation of, oh, I did so much, so I should get something back.
Yes.
The man always knew where to go if he needs something.
Say it again.
The man always knew where to go if he needs something.
Yeah. Well, I think we'll call it a close to volunteering. You pretty much did a good job. I've just for your information, I had this translated, not the narrative, but the text transcribed and made available in Chinese. And I presented this in China, multiple places. And the Chinese people are very feeling-oriented people. And I've had audiences, young people just cry. And, on a number of occasions they said things like, my mother. I'm sure that you've thought of these things also, just no one volunteered it for some reason. Mothers or parents are just giving and giving and giving and giving and giving. Mothers are very happy to do that. And children like to take and not necessarily understand other than I got something and go away. But, so that one occasion, a girl was crying. She couldn't control herself, saying, I've been like that with my mother, and I feel, I know I do that, but I keep doing it, and it's really bad. And then others spoke about Mother Nature. Of course, when this nice young boy said, Krishna did. But nature is under Krishna's direction, so for nature to give, it has to be with Krishna's sanction. And Krishna gives, and Krishna gives, and Krishna gives. Or Mother Nature gives, and we just exploit Mother Nature. Without thinking about it, just take and exploit Mother Nature. And that's as was said, when we have the taking mentality and not the other kind of mentality in relation to mothers, or in relation to Mother Earth, or in relation to others, or other relationships, or Krishna, we're never satisfied. We will never be satisfied. And similarly, as was mentioned already, for me the biggest point is, you may have the spirit of wanting to give to others, as a mother, or as a parent, or as a friend, or as a whatever your various roles are. However, it's not going to be fulfilling and satisfying to the recipient without giving spirituality, giving the greatest gift, giving the mission of life to the persons who you're giving to, along with what you're giving. I think of so many examples. There's nothing wrong. One example. Prabhupada was not, he writes in Ishopanishad that one of the greatest detriments or difficulties, obstacles for a spiritual organization is that today people expect spiritual organizations to be welfare organizations. That is, what do you do to help people? And the expectation is you do welfare work. You open hospitals, or you feed the poor, or you do those things. And that's what spiritual organizations are for. And if you don't do those things, there's something wrong with your organization. You're incomplete. But those are government functions. It's not that spiritual people can't do those things. We do those things. But when we do those things, we give Krishna. And whatever it is we do, we give Krishna. When you're giving, like the giving tree, this fits directly in the topic that we're speaking about. You could say compassion, but also tolerance. The strength to tolerate is from the strength of serving. In the mood of serving, you go on serving, you go on serving, and you go on serving. And the essence of that service is to give Krishna. You may do so many things as a parent, or as a tree, or as a whatever. See that giving Krishna is at the center of that gesture of giving. And then the potential of true satisfaction of the person who's the recipient on the other end can be met. Just anecdotal again, but once upon a time, in the year 2010, I was the chairman of the GBC, not so long ago. And during that period of time, there was this disaster in the Caribbean. What was the island that got smashed? Haiti. Yeah. Haiti. So, I was getting all these mails from people saying, we'd like to volunteer and help. Is there some way that we can help? And we don't have a emergency response force within ISKCON, so I didn't know what to do. Naturally, we have to do something because ISKCON, we're a service organization, but we're not set up for those kinds of emergencies. So I found somebody that I knew that lived in Santo Domingo, and he agreed to be the traffic coordinator of people that wanted to go to Haiti and help. Then he found some people in Haiti and sent them, so he was the point of contact. And then sometime later, I was traveling somewhere, I'm forgetting where. I was passing through the London airport, And I met all these devotees that were heading to Haiti. I mean, you know, I was dressed and they were dressed as devotees. So we just, you know, Haribol, where are you off to? Heading to Haiti. He said, oh, really? And this one knows how to build houses from next to nothing. This one knows how to take the destroyed agricultural land and get it productive again. And this one knows medical supplies and that, you know, wow, you guys are organized. And I said, could you, and they said, not only that, we've arranged with the DVT in France to have a whole load of books sent there because we've done this in different places, and the goal is not only take care of the medical and family and rebuild homes and things like that, but we teach them how to chant Hare Krishna and to read Bhagavad Gita in their language and give them support in their spiritual lives, because to pull their lives back together they need that spiritual cord. And so we're prepared to do all of that. We have extra japa beads. So there's, do Krishna consciousness when you're doing things that are intended to give to others. Of Shikshastaka, and in the third verse of Shikshastaka is this word Turor, which means tree. And Chaitanya Mahaprabhu is teaching in Shikshastakam 3 how to overcome the difficulty of verse 2. It says, I don't have any attraction. I know the holy name has all these glories, and I know that the fullness of Krishna's potencies is available in each and every name of Krishna, and Krishna is very kindly making himself available to us just by calling his name, but I have no attraction. There's not lack of knowledge, but my heart is not open to receive that mercy of Krishna. So this verse, Shikshastakam 3, is a response. There's 4 principles to get to the place where we have some attraction, taste for the name. Trin means straw, and Turor means tree, and Amanina Manadena. This is wishing to offer respect to others without any expectation of respect in return. Here's Prabhupada's translation. One should chant the holy name of the Lord in a humble state of mind, thinking oneself lower than the straw in the street, and one should be more tolerant than a tree, devoid of all sense of false prestige, and should be ready to offer all respect to others in such a state of mind. One can chant the holy name of the Lord constantly. Your head is in the way again. Your head is in the way again. You're blocking the light from the projector. Could you just move to the side a little? Sure. Thanks. This Shikshastaka verse is so important that Mahaprabhu, teaching it to his devotees, says, raising my hands I declare, everyone, please hear me, string this verse on the thread of the holy name, this Trinadapi Suruchena verse, and wear it on your neck for continuous remembrance. So we have neck beads, or Kunti Mala, for remembering Krishna and helping the Yamadutas to also remember that we're in Krishna's service, so please leave us alone. Prabhupada once said our neck beads is like a dog collar. Have you heard that one before? Dog collar? So, you know, some people keep dogs, and they keep a dog collar in case the dog gets lost. He's got a collar and got a little name, you know, Fido. And, you know, so I belong to so-and-so on the other side. My address is down the street. My dog is Fido. My name is Fido. So the dog collar is so that you can know that who the dog belongs to. They have the same term. I don't know if Prabhupada knew this, but in the military, you were in the military? Anyone here in the U.S. military? Someone. Yeah. Did you have one?
Yes.
Dog collar. It's metal chain with a metal plate hanging on the chain. At least I was told it's called a dog collar. So if you're wounded or killed or something in a battle, they know who you are because you've got your dog collar on. Right? You use the same term today?
Dog tags.
Dog tags. Dog tags.
Dog tags.
Dog tag. Okay, dog tag. Dog tag. So this is our neck beads are our dog tag. If you're wearing neck beads and the time of death comes, the Yamadutas know, leave this one alone because they're Krishna's devotees. Prabhupada's made that. So now, not just, you know, the Kunti Mala, but this verse, these 4 items: humility, tolerance, and offering respect to others, no expectation in return. No expectation, just like the tree, no expectation in return. One should chant the holy name of the Lord in a humble state of mind, thinking oneself lower than the straw in the street. There are some straws to the left and to the right and not considered so special. People just walking right by because it's insignificant. His is a painting of Sanatana Goswami, who came before Lord Chaitanya with straw in his teeth as a sign of humility, that I'm lower than that straw that's in my teeth. Please show your kindness upon me. There is this saying, the beginning of all knowledge comes from humility. If you read carefully in chapter 13, Bhagavad Gita, the items of knowledge, the first one on the list is this one: humility and pridelessness. One should be more tolerant than a tree. As we heard, the tree just supplies its fruits and leaves and branches and place for children to play and anything, just any form of service. And regardless of the season, whether it's summer season, winter season, the tree is just tolerating whatever is going on. Devoid of all sense of false prestige. Small item, right? Where instead of having false ego, one takes the position of being the servant of God. And ready to offer all respect to others. More than just a word. In such a state of mind, one can chant the holy names of the Lord constantly. And if one does chant the holy name in that manner, these are Prabhupada's words, he will certainly awaken his dormant love for Krishna's lotus feet. So this summary is this principle of tolerance implies there's a higher purpose, and so whatever's going on in this world of duality is not the real issue of importance, because there's this greater importance, something that you value, Like speaking the truth, that's another one. Doesn't matter the consequence, you speak the truth. You don't lie, you don't. So you live by a value, and ultimately the purpose of that human value is to become close to Krishna, become dear to Krishna, to become Krishna conscious. So that's part of the 7th canto, chapter 11 section. Okay, so we're done for the evening. If you're interested, you can go online in that the Giving Tree, you can download it and have the session 2 or 3 or 10 with your children and discuss it again and again, let it go in. There are different versions, but I particularly like this version. He's the voice, the author is the voice. Okay. Any comments or discussion from anybody? Do you like the story? Oh, she's having hand signals with her. Okay. Yeah.
The very thing at the beginning of the story, it actually starts that the charity loves the boy. So there's some affection that seems to drive the giving. What happens when you don't have affection, but you're supposed to give?
Well, there's different answers. One answer that comes to mind is, what do you do when you know you're supposed to chant, but you don't feel like chanting? Or there's a sense of, here's one that's similar. Prabhupada said, when it engages in kirtan, then a natural ecstasy comes and you want to dance. But if you're not feeling ecstasy, then dance and the ecstasy will come. It happens. You get involved in a kirtan where there's jubilant devotees singing and dancing and having a great time. And you want to, somehow something happens, you may be a wallflower type of person, but a little encouragement and that ecstasy will come. Raise your arms and call the name and the ecstasy will come. But it may not, the affection may not be felt. That has to do with our condition of heart. So at least for the purpose of coming to that stage, let me take up the conduct of one who does have affection. Let me try. Not just imitate, but I want to come to that stage. And another answer is you associate with people that do have that, and that becomes a quality. And then related is this message I gave earlier of Ramanujacharya. Find persons within scripture that they model in particular this quality, and you hear about that, etc., etc. And then the heart starts to open. Through association. Good question. Very practical question. Yes?
Just following up on that, seems like there's a certain weakness of mind or heart, whatever you want to call it, when that comes into play also at the same time. So sometimes I might start with a good intention and try to follow, but then over time, even though I'm trying to follow it, might kind of create the opposite effect because I still have
There's some noises coming from the microphone. Can I have the microphone? Go ahead. I can hear you just fine.
Okay. So I was just thinking, just going ahead, going forward on that thought process. Sometimes we start off with the hope that, yeah, I will develop that love or bigger personality, more magnanimity. But then
something happens.
Weakness of heart or mind, whatever. Like there's that sense of what about me? Or I did, like this. I'm still in the center, so I'm still in the shower. How to, and often it causes me to divert or walk away or get.
We discussed this. I'm happy to say it again and again and 100 times again. We discussed this on Saturday. No, it's okay. But it was also discussed in Gita Nagari. Same point. The heading of the session was moving from the head to the heart. Moving from the head to the heart. So, summary is more than a behavior, similar as you said, following, more than a behavior, because behaviors are driven largely by the mind. I want to something. I want to go for a walk, so you get up and go for a walk. This happens in the mind before it becomes an activity. I want to do well in my exam, so I study for my exam, or I want to move in this direction with my career, and so then comes behavior. But then the mind is flickering in something else and something else. There's discussion on this topic. I want to be more tolerant, and then I'm tolerant for a few hours, and then goes back. So something that's stronger and deeper. So bhakti is driven by something more than a behavior, a set of behaviors. It's even the intelligence deciding I want, and these are the reasons why I want. By discrimination power, at the heart level, it's the relationship with Krishna. And at the heart level, it's at least the hankering, the cultivation, anukul, anushilana is a behavior, but driving the behavior so it's consistent is, I'll say it again because I said it, it's nice. Jiva Goswami analyzes that phrase of Rupa Goswami defining bhakti. And he says there are three parts that are secondary and one that's primary. And the three parts that are secondary is free from mental speculation, free from sense gratification, and activities following great souls. Those sound pretty primary. But he says the primary one is anukulyena, and he gives the following logic or grammatical explanation. He says anukul means acceptance, and anukulyena is the instrumental case. I don't know grammar in Sanskrit, but it means it stands alone. It's independent from the behavior. Behavior is not just you do those things that are pleasing to Krishna. It's the essence of bhakti. And the others are secondary to that essence of bhakti. So what we discussed is exercise the bhakti muscle. And you get a strong bhakti muscle after some time with a good, bhakti therapist. And, in the right way, at the right degree, and, something you can... So, with a good trainer, your bhakti can grow. That is, you do those things that you do, the behaviors, and without sense gratification and without mental speculation, for the pleasure of Krishna. And when things are resting upon that and supported by that and driven by that, then it just keeps going. It doesn't go back. I mean, initially it was going to have that vacillation, unsteady bhakti. But as it matures, it becomes fixed. And then it becomes perfect. Prema. That's because this is Jiva Goswami's explanation of what Rupa Goswami is writing. So the unsteadiness is there because at the immature stage of bhakti, they're not sufficiently attentive to why we're doing what we're doing. The why behind the behavior, the why behind what we don't do, needs to be strong because it's pleasing to Krishna, that's why. So you can start with some area of your life, or you can start with... That's often a good way to develop a good habit, or to strengthen something that you know needs to be strengthened, is to take a certain area of your life, or a certain time of your day, or something like that, and just be very consistent. Anukulyena. For the pleasure of Krishna. And it can start even with karma yoga, but it can, if it's done with the right purpose, it becomes bhakti yoga, and it becomes Shuddha bhakti. Our life can come to that stage if we have the right intention behind what we do. And always ready to refine it. Because intention yesterday may not be intention today or intention tomorrow. Just have to have greater clarity on what does intention mean. Good intention is not good enough, but it's essential. We'll learn as we go along what's pleasing to Krishna, what's not. There's a lot of refinement in the bhakti process. Anything else? Okay. I think we're ready for something else. Prashad? You ready for Prashad? Yeah? Okay. Srila Prabhupada.